And I think we have a mic or something. So this one. I can hear you. I'd be happy to repeat it so everyone else can hear it.
Okay, I have two questions. The first question is, you know how Vietnam War is called television war and the Iraq War is called the internet war? So soldiers are taking their cameras and filming it. So my first question is, how censored is YouTube?
I think that what goes on YouTube is very uncensored. Now, if I mean, there's a lot of, there's nothing pornographic on YouTube, but pretty much, I haven't seen much of a censorship in terms of profanity on YouTube, or in terms of others. I think if it was completely gratuitous, they might take it off. But as long as it's not copyright violation, and as long as it's not all-out pornography, or something that's maybe over-the-top violent, almost everything else is pretty much allowed. I think the censorship would come in, and that's by YouTube, of course. People can flag videos on YouTube, which means that the community itself can say this video is inappropriate, and you might have to say, I'm 18 years old and I'm willing to see this video. But I think the censorship that you're talking about, I think more comes in with maybe probably the military itself, in terms of if they're willing to, I mean, they obviously can't stop everything, because as you said, you can just take your little camera very intrusively and get anything you want. But I'm pretty sure that the military would have more censorship over that than YouTube would. And I would guess that if the military came to YouTube and said you have to shut these things down, then maybe YouTube would do it. But it would probably have to be on an individual by individual basis, because the soldier can just create an individual account on YouTube under some innocuous screen name. It's not going to be, Iraq War videos or necessarily anything like that. Although, and also the military has made use of YouTube as well to show their view on the Iraq War and to paint the picture that kind of the official pictures that they want to paint too.
My second question is, you mentioned how the candidates don't have the same playing field. What did you mean by that?
I meant that the candidates, when I say the playing field is leveling, I basically mean that I, a kid in a college dorm room, can put a message on YouTube. And that can be linked to or right next to a video that a candidate officially puts out by sitting in a studio and creates it that way. So the candidates and I are essentially, on YouTube at least, on the same playing field in terms of we both have videos that people can click on if they're interested in seeing it. Anybody can see either of those videos. The candidates, of course, are going to have a little bit more of an advantage because they have the name recognition, they have the powerful position, and of course they can get on other media stations as well. YouTube has not kind of supplanted other kinds of media like CNN and the newspaper and radio. It's just added to the fray. And so when I say it's leveling but not level, I mean that as just a guy on YouTube, I have a little power, anybody could see it, but in terms of will anybody want to watch it or know who I am or care, politicians certainly have the advantage on that end.
Thank you.
Yeah. Way in the back.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I just wanted to expand a little on the level playing field. I believe at one point Mike Huckabee was running an $8 million campaign, while Mitt Romney was running a $100 million campaign. And we see where the two of them ended in this campaign. I think YouTube helps level the playing field even for the candidates, as someone with a very low budget can actually get his voice heard and spread his views very well.
Yeah, exactly right. And the Mike Huckabee Chuck Norris ad, by the way, Huckabee credits Chuck Norris's endorsement and the subsequent ad that they put out there as one of the things that really kick-started their campaign in Iowa. And in fact, he took Chuck Norris around to every single event he did in Iowa, and New Hampshire as well, which became ridiculous after a while. But yes, and that is largely because I think that the video spread virally on YouTube. The thing about that is, though, if you're just because a lot of times, minor candidates will complain, oh, the media is not giving me a fair shake. Now they have less of a reason to complain because they could speak out through these alternative means that anybody has access to. The thing is, though, your message still has to be compelling. So if you're saying something that only 2% of the people agree with, and then you're able to say it to everybody in the country, but still only 2% of the people agree with you, that's why some of these minor candidates, they're doing these more unique things up here at this level, but still nobody cares because nobody really cared about them in the first place. No offense to anybody who, you know.
I was just wondering how you feel on how certain candidates have such a grasp on the online community, yet they were unsuccessful in elections, such as like Ron Paul or Mike Gravel. Like YouTube is the crutch for his campaign right now, and he's basically unknown.
In terms of Ron Paul, he's very popular on the internet. YouTube is one iteration of that. I think that partly it has to do with his message. I don't think that, I mean, the people who believe in his message really believe that it should resonate with more people than it does. But if you look at the polls and if you look at the elections that he's running, it just hasn't. So I think it goes back to that point that I made about your message has to appeal to a broad swath of people, first of all. And the second point, which I've also kind of alluded to, is that YouTube is not the only thing. I mean, it still is a very powerful thing to be on CNN with Lou Dobbs talking about trade policy. It still is a very powerful thing to be quoted in the New York Times. And although YouTube can help, and what YouTube has partly done for Ron Paul is, because there's popularity on the internet, it's attracted the attention of those other media entities as well. So what partly you can do is use YouTube to build other media attention too. But what that shows is that the other media outlets are still very important. And you can't just have a corner on one. YouTube is just one aspect of a campaign. Message, money, which Ron Paul is very good at, logistics, and luck, I think, are all other aspects of it too.
Any other questions?
We have time for one more.
One more question.
You got one, so maybe we should go back there. I'll talk to you after.
I say, okay, I'm a legal resident, but it say, how can we young people be a part of maintaining political outcome in society? I cannot do YouTube, so how can I get heard, you know? Because I'm a big supporter of Obama on both sides. So, but I mean, can you answer that? Did you understand the question?
Yeah, you're saying that if you don't want to use YouTube or you just don't have access to YouTube for whatever reason, what other ways are there to be involved? Is that your question? Yeah, YouTube is one aspect of, first of all, there's the entire internet. I mean, as I mentioned, this guy created a Facebook group, 1 million strong for Obama. It started getting hundreds of thousands of members of people. So people tend to think of Facebook as just something that you do to waste time between or even during class. But it's actually a very powerful social networking tool. You can send out messages to people, you can organize people through it. We've probably only seen the very nascent stages of the development on that. There's blogging. People, if you don't want to make a video, you can always write about stuff, and you can get popular that way. It's not necessarily guaranteed that you will be heard by millions of people. The internet just offers, the possibility. And beyond the internet, which is probably the newest way, there are also a lot of very traditional ways too. Volunteering for a campaign, going door to door, knocking on doors for your favorite candidate, stuffing envelopes in the campaign headquarters. I mean, there are a number of ways to get involved. And yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because and it just goes back to another point that voting is kind of a minimum amount thing for us to do. Because if you look at the members of Congress, if you look at the lobbyists, not a lot of them are going to be the age of the vast majority of what it looks like the people in this room, which is people under 30. So in order for our voices we still have very legitimate concerns, we still have very legitimate things to say, but those aren't necessarily being represented in the people that go to Washington. So in order for our concerns to be heard, if you don't want the, you have to get it out there. That was a pretty bad closing. So thank you very much for coming.
We'd like to present you, Mr. Kotecki, with this plaque to remind you that you're here to help us elect to change the future.
Thank you very much.
Proof of attendance forms are at the table on your way out, and if you could kindly turn in the evaluations.